without anyone helping. So I just set up the camera myself. So if anything is a little basic, that's my fault. But it's a very fancy camera, and I'm here with a very important man in Boulder, Colorado, as well as in Denver. He's a mover and a shaker and a good friend of Elephants for many years, Steve Fenberg of New Era, Colorado.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for having me. I'm in your office.
That's true. What are you doing here again?
Yeah, the door wasn't locked, so I just walked in. So Steve is one of those like people who's involved. He's got his whatever the expression is, his hand on his ears and he knows what's going on, right? What's the expression
Ears to
I'm
the
looking
ground,
for?
maybe?
Ears to the ground?
I don't know.
Yeah. So
whatever it is, that's what I am.
right now, this has been a funny year for Boulder, Colorado. If you don't know Boulder, many people have this idea of it as sort of like where everyone bikes around, goes to Naropa University, doesn't shave their armpits, wears Birkenstocks, and there's some truth to that. There's this sort of like eco vibe, but the difference is you come here and everyone is starting social good companies and tech companies, and it's kind of an exciting place to be. There's a lot of climbing, and people move here for health and adventure kind of stuff. But this year has been kind of funny. We're finally, after 30 years of trying, we're letting in Walmart. We just allowed fracking in Boulder County, which is very controversial. It affects the drinking water, that kind of thing, health. And something else is weird, right? What was it?
There's a lot of weird things.
Yeah, there's a lot of kind of un-Bouldery things happening in Boulder. The latest is last year, was it a year ago?
2 years ago, 2011.
So 2 years ago, what did we do, which is relatively unique, though we're far from alone, in terms of our energy?
So 2 years ago, during the 2011 election, the city of Boulder became the first community in the country to break off from an investor-owned utility. Here in Colorado, that utility is Xcel Energy. So we became the first to break off from an investor-owned utility for the sole purpose of lowering our impact on the planet and lowering greenhouse gas emissions as a community.
So in layman's terms, basically all our energy goes through a company, which is Xcel Energy, and they're fine. They're the number one provider of wind energy, I guess, in the U.S., but they're also, like Comcast, say, they're kind of a monopoly, and they kind of drag their feet whenever Boulder is wanting more wind or more solar. They don't necessarily lead that charge.
We essentially what we did is we were a community that did something that's very rare these days. We essentially deprivatized a public good, right? Xcel Energy has been providing us has been our energy company for many decades, in one way or another. They used to be called something else, and we became a community that actually, took back the control, and that's really what it's about. It's about having the control. It's not about giving the finger to some big corporation necessarily. It's about being a community that has values and wants to have the control to put those values into action.
And those values are, we want more solar and wind and renewable domestic local energy.
Yeah, to have more control over our energy supply and where we get our energy.
So, and that was a very closely fought, what was it, a ballot?
It was a ballot, 2 ballot measures actually. We had to have 2 measures. One actually gave the city permission to break off and create a municipal utility. The other one was the small tax increase that funded the legal legwork that has to happen in the meantime before it gets off the ground. Right.
So basically the citizens voted to explore whether it would be cheaper and greener, and if it is cheaper and greener, only then can we go forward, something like that.
Exactly. So there were protections in place. It wasn't just saying, let's go for it and do it and we'll see what happens.
Right.
It was saying over the next couple of years, the city is going to be authorized to spend money on studies and modeling and get independent third-party experts to come in and to tell us that if we broke off and create our own electric utility, which, by the way, 30 other communities in Colorado already do. They already have
including
this.
Like Colorado Springs.
Colorado Springs, Fort Collins, Longmont, Aspen, a bunch of communities across the state.
But what I love about Colorado
thousands around the
Springs
country
is they're super conservative. Colorado Springs, they're like thought of as like libertarian conservative, and they do it. So this isn't just
to me, this isn't a progressive or conservative issue. To me, this is about having the control. I mean, Colorado Springs has control that doesn't mean they're putting solar panels in everyone's roofs.
Right.
They're still burning a lot of coal and natural gas.
Right.
But they have the opportunity to have the control to change that. And communities like Fort Collins, I think, are actually are having that control and using it for good.
And wouldn't it be likely that we would then turn around and continue to use Xcel, but we would have more power? We'd be in the driver's seat.
Yeah, there's a good chance that a path moving forward would be some sort of relationship with Xcel, most likely. If they keep making everyone really mad and showing that they're not going to be a good community partner, maybe that's not the case.
Right.
But, they are an energy company. They know how to provide energy. They are experts in a lot of ways. The one thing that I'd also like to say is nobody's talking about creating a municipal electric utility where the city council is out there with the wrenches, like putting up our poles and wires.
Right.
No matter what, most likely we would be contracting out with another company. It could be Xcel, it could be some other company that comes in to provide our energy. But we would have the control to tell them where we want to get the energy from. But they would manage the day-to-day operations of making sure our lights
like so many other things, right? Schools or roads.
Sure.
We're doing a lot competently. It's not a major
down
stretch.
the road, maybe it would all be run in-house. I believe a lot of our water utility, for instance, is run by city or county employees. But in the interim, we would be using our control to go on the open market and purchase the energy we want to purchase in some other company. And this is a dumbed down version of how all this works, obviously, because it's complicated. It's an electric grid that provides thousands of people with energy.
Yeah.
And you got to look into base loads, and when the wind is blowing is when you use wind, and when it's not, you use something else. But we would have experts run this utility for the community, and they would be working directly for us. They wouldn't be a state. They wouldn't be an out-of-state company that has a branch in Colorado that is the monopoly, and they're serving our community, and the only way we can get them to do anything is by going through a public utilities commission in Denver. This would be, we would own the grid, we would own the electric utility, and we would go out on the market and bid out who would want to run it for us.
So why are people so opposed to, is anyone other than Xcel, which threw a lot of money at trying to defeat this, opposed to this?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, there are all kinds of people that don't think this is a great idea. I mean, a lot of people don't think it's a priority to spend all this time and effort.
Right, because climate change is not a big deal.
Not a big deal at all.
Right.
I mean,
if
we've
it
got
even
at least
exists.
5 to 10 years left.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
So some people, have different priorities. They don't think it's what the city should be spending their time and money on. Other people are skeptical, frankly, and they think the city just is not capable.
But that's
of pulling
fine.
this off.
That I don't really understand, because, again, we voted to explore whether we could do it well, and we could do it realistically and cheaper and greener. We're not, and if we can't, then we won't do it.
Exactly. So the 3 protections that the voters approved is that we will only move forward on creating an electric utility that we run instead of Xcel if we're sure that rates are the same or better than what Xcel can offer.
So you're not going to pay more.
Not going to pay more on your monthly bill. That the reliability is the same or better than what Xcel provides.
So you're not going to be in the dark any more than you are.
Right. And that we can significantly lower our greenhouse gas emissions by investing more in renewable energy.
So that's great.
So basically it's saying if we can get cleaner energy, the lights don't, flicker as much, and it's the same price or cheaper, then we'll move forward. And I'm not sure why anybody in their right mind would think if we have all these 3 things, we shouldn't move forward. The issue is that some people think the city, is this power-hungry entity that just wants to, hire more bureaucrats to do what bureaucrats do or something.
Right.
I mean, I think there's just basically this misconception out there by some people, and it's that no matter what, you should just be skeptical of government. And, in a lot of ways, maybe they're not completely wrong. At the end of the day, we are a small community. Yeah. The people that run our government in this city are our friends. They're our neighbors. Yeah. I mean, I know many of them. You know many of them. They're at the coffee shop when we're there. They're at the farmer's market. These are real people that have the same values as us as Boulderites. And they're
on the
doing
other
this
hand,
for the right reason. They're not doing it
right.
to line their pockets. We're not talking about some bureaucrat in Washington, D.C.
Right.
These are city government
And
people.
skeptical is always great to be skeptical. I mean, you're skeptical. We're supporting because we've looked at the options and this seems like a good thing to do. But the process in itself has skepticism built into it. So we're not just saying, go for it, do whatever.
Sure.
We'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
So that was an amazing story, kind of barely defeating this well-moneyed, corporate behemoth that is not an evil corporate entity by any means. Again, we would probably work with them if they don't.
And so they spent $1 million last election.
Yeah, but we won.
The pro side spent about $100,000. And just really quick to say that they're not this horrible, evil company. They are one of the leaders in providing, for instance, wind energy.
Right.
They're a large corporation, and in many ways they set the bar in some areas in this industry. However, I think that bar is extremely low.
Yeah.
And they're not doing enough. They may be the largest provider of wind energy, but we still get, as a community that's super green and hippy-dippy, 80% of our energy is from fossil fuels. 80%. So although maybe they might be the leader, they're not leading in a courageous way, in my opinion.
And fossil fuels is coal and natural gas.
Yeah. Predominantly
natural gas
in
is
Colorado.
fracking often.
Usually. And in Colorado, majority of our energy is coal, though, which is very dirty. And so is gas, especially the extraction process.
It's also very inefficient.
Yeah.
So anyway, it was this sort of David and Goliath story, except that we don't hate Goliath. And then we won, and that's great. And I was going to say, even though we do know the city, they are, human beings and generally serving out of a lot of love for the city and devotion and not out of touch by any stretch of the imagination. I went to a recent city council meeting and I was kind of blown away by the intelligence and the research that they're doing. Not the city councilors, but the staff at the city. I mean, they're really taking this seriously. And I went in there thinking this was a little bit ideological, and I left feeling like they were just looking at facts and research and taking it really seriously. But now, 2 years later, I guess, Xcel has kind of understandably from a corporate point of view, from a short-term point of view, is so afraid of losing, this kind of Boulder again and again will sort of, set an example for other municipalities in the U.S. They don't want this to be that sort of example. They're being challenged in their hometown where they're based in Minneapolis, which is far bigger, right? So now they're putting a new ballot out, and this is why we're doing this video. So anyone in Boulder who's watching this video, try and learn something from the discussion. You probably already know a lot because everyone in Boulder is pretty well informed usually. But share this. The reason we're doing this is because we found that in Boulder, a lot of people don't really know, aren't aware, and aren't active until after the fact. A lot of great people are active in GMOs or fracking, but we lost both of those in some sense. And we need to really galvanize support before it's too late. So Xcel basically is spending another chunk of money. What are they doing?
So Xcel, they polled for a couple of months. Some people in Boulder got phone calls from a polling firm. They're testing out language of something they could put on the ballot that would effectively kill the city from being able to move forward on the process.
So they're trying to basically undo
stop it.
The citizens' vote that happened despite huge financial opposition 2 years ago. They're trying to undo it.
Yeah. So that measure has come out. At first, they were pretty much pretending it was this organic citizens group. The people on that group are primarily former lobbyists. One of them used to be the director of the Colorado Oil and Gas Association.
Is that the Rick Fox guy? Or?
So the Oil and Gas Association is Meg Collins. She's one of the 5 people listed. One of them is Phil Fox, who moved to Boulder like a couple of days before filing this petition.
2 days.
And registered to vote, and then the next day filed the petition. He has since been pulled off because they found out the city thought it was illegal because he wasn't here long enough.
And he was outed by the Daily Camera, right?
Essentially, yeah. He is their spokesperson still. According to campaign finance records, he's been the spokesperson for several different issue committees, from what I can tell, and he's been compensated for those. He was the lead spokesperson, I think, for an organization called Coloradans for a Stable Economy, which was an $11 million funded oil and gas front group that killed Bill Ritter's severance tax on oil and gas extraction. So he's been around before. His job is to basically, in my opinion, get paid to get a ballot measure passed. But the measure they put on the ballot sounds good at first. It's about debt. It says that the utility cannot move forward until voters approve the debt limit of the utility. Goes along with Xcel's talking points that voting for municipalization is giving the city a blank check.
Which is not, because it's built in that it has to be the same or cheaper. The rates have
to be the same or cheaper than Xcel.
Right.
And the other thing to keep in mind is these bonds, this debt that the municipal utility would be issuing would be completely paid off by rates, not taxes. So the only way to buy power plants and poles and wires and infrastructure is to take out a loan, and then you pay it off as people's bills come in, as people pay their monthly bill. It's exactly what Xcel does to build coal plants. If you build a coal plant, you don't have, $500 million sitting around. You get someone to give you money, a bank loans it to you, you pay it off by you and I's energy bills every month. When we give them the $50, $100 a month, that goes towards paying off a coal plant. In the city, it would go towards paying off the poles and wires that we buy, and hopefully more renewable energy.
So all Xcel has to really do, and they've been hiring people to be at our farmers markets and everywhere, is get a bunch of signatures, right? 5,000 signatures. They've been very confusing about in informing people what they're signing. And in Boulder, we're used to clipboard people being kind of like environmentalists and, trying to legalize pot or whatever it is. And generally, you just sign. If it's some grassrootsy thing, cool, we'll support you. You're out on a street corner on a Saturday. God bless, here's my signature. So I was even approached by someone, there was no info on the ballot. It was just the signature page. And what they told me was incredibly unclear. And I myself, being informed on the issue, nearly signed it before I realized there was no info anywhere. And the guy could just say anything. So I asked him where the info was and, didn't sign. But
Yeah, they need to collect 5,000 signatures to get qualified for the ballot.
And it looks like they're going to do it, right?
Yeah, 5,000 is not that hard to do,
right.
Especially when you have the money to pay people to collect them. So
Sure.
It's not a volunteer effort. They're paying people 50 cents a signature.
No, I could get 5,000 signatures personally for a ballot initiative to allow my dog Redford to go into restaurants and never be on a leash.
I'd sign that.
I honestly could. I'd just get together some friends.
So they hire a paid firm. This isn't real democracy. This is paid consultants, paid political operatives that will work for anyone who pays them. And we do know these people are being paid 50 cents a signature. Some of them just need a job, and they need the money. And they're not telling people really the real facts, in my opinion. They're telling people that this fall we'd be voting on the debt limit. It's not true. This fall we'd be voting on whether in the future we vote on the debt limit, meaning that there are several elections, not just one, if we were to approve this. So this would go on forever, basically. And each election, Xcel is going to spend a couple $1 million to get their way until they finally do get their way.
So now we're finally at the point in this conversation where we kind of have the facts laid before us. Xcel is putting this new thing to gum up the works. The courts can't pass on whatever you were telling me, the municipalization progress, if anything is in question. And when a ballot is out, it's in question.
Yeah, there's no question that what this ballot measure would do is kill municipalization. If this ballot measure gets on the ballot and passes, we're stuck with Xcel. There's no other.
It's probably going to get on the ballot.
It's going to get on the ballot.
Yeah.
I hope it doesn't. I hope people out there will know what they're signing and they'll decide not to sign it because they know it's basically it's a major corporation masquerading as a fake organization to have serious influence over our electoral process
and to undo our
for their own financial gain. This isn't just because they're concerned about us. This is because they're trying to protect $100 million every year.
Yeah. That's the part I love. There's no way Xcel would throw this much money twice now against the citizens and our vote unless they were making profits to the point where there's no question that we could save money and invest more in renewables.
Right, because with these protections that we put in place 2 years ago, if Xcel thought this was a bad deal for customers and that we weren't able to do it, and there's no way we could, in an economically,
challenging.
If they thought that we couldn't have the same or better rates and also provide more renewable energy, then they would just let the process play out, and eventually we would hit a wall.
Right.
The reason why they're spending so much money to stop us right now is because they know that we're going to be successful if they don't.
That makes sense.
And that would set a
if
very bad precedent.
If they knew we would fail, then they would
because
just
all
let us
that money and
try.
profit they make from us every year,
Right.
we wouldn't have to make that as a community. We would put that right back into the system to invest in cleaner energy.
So now we're at the point where, you're someone who's informed on the issues pretty well. What can we do? I mean, beyond not signing, decline to sign, which is on neweracolorado.org. Mm-hmm. It's on your front page, right? So go to neweracolorado.org. It's also on the video. And you can read a very short version of what we just talked about. What else? Assuming it does get on, the ballot does get 5,000 signatures, what can people do beyond not?
The easiest thing you can do is tell your friends and family and anyone you talk to that this ballot measure, the purpose is to make it so our community does not have control over our energy decisions. That's what this is. This is not anything about debt. This is not anything about protecting rates. This is about Xcel trying to protect their profits. And I think that's what everyday people need to make sure they're telling their friends and their family and their coworkers. For those that want to take it a step further, and I really hope a lot of people do, and I know that they will because we saw it 2 years ago. We need people to help out. We're going to be up against $1, $2, $3 million funded by Xcel. Who knows how much they'll spend? We're not going to have anywhere near that. Yeah. But what we do have are people that are educated and passionate and are here for the right reasons, not just because they're being paid to be here. And that's how we're going to win this. That's exactly how we won it 2 years ago. That's how we're going to win it again. We need to have an army because they've got the money. But it's not something that we have to bring to the table, but we do have people that are here for the right reasons. So we need people to come into our office to volunteer, like us on Facebook, and find out where we're going to be, how they can help out. Register voters, engage voters, knock on doors, make phone calls. We need it all done, and we've got 5 months to do it.
And the advantage we have that Boulder has, and why, in my opinion, Boulder citizens really can't lose and Xcel can't win as long as they take this tack of not being really forthright or honest, is we're a small enough community. We're 60 to 100,000 in the city, right? We're pretty
100,000 in the city.
Right, but with the college students and all that. I mean, it's a tight community. Mm-hmm. People come here for a reason or stay here for a reason. And generally that reason has to do with livability, health, enjoying the great outdoors,
yep.
Family. And we naturally want to meet the Kyoto Protocol, be environmentally responsible. And it's sort of like, what I would say to Xcel, because I'm sure you'll watch this, is, you can't beat us, so join us, help us out. And we'll work with you as long as you can not drag your feet and show us that we can get renewables and kind of lead the country in doing so. And a partnership like that we'd be wide open to. And the more you do this sort of obfuscating kind of, throwing money against our vote, the less we're going to probably, sounds like, want to work with you. So, and right, if you're a citizen, New Era Colorado is a pretty inspiring organization. I say that from the inside out. I've seen what they've been doing over the years, and get involved. And what else? Go to city council meetings.
Yeah, write letters to the editor. Do the whole thing. There's a lot at stake. This isn't just about if one community can create an electric utility.
Right.
This in all seriousness, this is about the future of our planet, the future of our community, the future of us, and being able to have control over that future. And more importantly, this is about the role that major, powerful corporations can have on our democratic process. And this is a textbook example of that fight. And, there's a lot at stake, so I hope people will join in on the right side and fight that war.
Yeah, I mean, I was reading your comments. I recently wrote an article on elephantjournal.com about, what's going wrong with Boulder and how, what we can do to fix it. And you were dialoguing with a friend of ours in Boulder who is always skeptical of the city and such. And you were saying, well, on one side we have like, environmentalists and people working for nonprofits and local citizens, and on the other side we have, the Phil Foxes of the world and the well-moneyed Xcel. So if you're going to be skeptical, maybe look at the people who are afraid of losing tons of, their profits and don't even live here or really care about the community. And, certainly it's always healthy to be constructively skeptical
Sure.
of everyone. But on the other side, we have a lot of citizens here who actually do care about our community. So thank you, Steve. Thank you, New Era. And hopefully this is helpful. So get involved. Good work. Hopefully I pressed record.